everyone, this is Emily Leiphart from Art from the Heart. Welcome to our 12th video for the Too Many Cards video series. The Stamp Market is our generous sponsor today, and we're excited to be playing with the beautiful blooms and lots of leaves bundles. The Stamp Market released their first products in February of last year, and I've been in love with all of their releases, especially the latest holiday release. Amy makes the most amazing samples in the loveliest colors, and I just want to buy everything. It's a pleasure to showcase her product in today's video, and I know you'll fall in love with the Stamp Market too. Let's take a look at the stamp and die sets I'll be using today. Beautiful Blooms is a layering stamp set with stunning flowers and leaves. The two big flowers have 5 layers each, and they're super easy to line up. The layers allow you to build up incredible detail and dimension. The closed bud has 3 colors, and all of the greenery has 2 layers, also super easy to line up. There are 5 individual sentiments that are perfect for everyday feel-good cards to friends and loved ones. The Lots of Leaves stamp set is simple but has so much impact when stamped. There's a solid leaf that you can layer with the other leaves, or you can use them all on their own for so many different looks. I especially love the scripted sentiment with coordinating die. It just looks amazing, and you'll see it in my finished card. Let's get started. I'm going to start with Lots of Leaves and make a Thanksgiving card in fall colors. I have a layout in mind where the top part of the panel has leaves stamped on an angle in one direction, and then switch direction on the bottom half of the panel. I'm also going to stamp directly on the panel at the top, and die cut the leaves to add dimension on the bottom of the card. I start in the corner and stamp the leaves one by one, first with a darker shade and then layering with a lighter shade in coordinating colors. The Altenew ink sets make it easy to match my colors, and I'll have all of those listed in my supply list below as always. I'll fast forward through the stamping because it took quite a while for me to line up everything and mix and match patterns so they were evenly distributed. Of course, you could keep it simple and use only 1 or 2 patterns, but I wanted to use all of the leaves included in this stamp set and make the most of it. The ink colors lighten up as they dry. I use the lines from the previous stamp to make sure the ones on the next row are parallel. There's only one stamp that I don't layer, and that's the orange leaf that I stamped second. It's a solid leaf where the veins are white and not inked. In the beginning, I was stamping the lighter solid layer first and then the detailed layer. Later, I realized it was easier to stamp the detailed layer first so I could see where to line up the solid stamp. However, you can't really go wrong, and these stamps still look amazing even if they are a bit off-centered. I didn't have to worry too much about having exact spacing between the leaves. Busy patterns like this are very forgiving. Now all the one layer stamping is done, and I'll start stamping for the die cut section. I'm basically stamping 4 solid leaves in red, orange, and yellow so I can layer the patterns over top of those. After all the leaves are stamped and die cut, it's time to arrange the patterns at a 90-degree angle to the top of the panel. Even though only some tips or stems may be sitting on the panel, the completist in me can't leave those parts off. After all, pattern paper wouldn't be missing those little bits. It just wouldn't look right. After I have all the patterns and colors distributed, I can score them and adhere them to the panel with glue. If I haven't mentioned already, this new glue by Studio Katia is really amazing and my new favorite glue. Everything about this, from the ergonomic shape of the tube to the strength of it and the way the tip doesn't clog, makes it my new favorite liquid adhesive. I'm only adhering the bottom of the leaf to the panel so the top half can lift up for dimension. After the last leaf has been adhered, I'll set the panel aside to dry, and then I'll trim off the overhanging pieces. In the meantime, I'll stamp and die cut the sentiment. I stamp it in the darkest shades of red, orange, and yellow to give myself options when it comes to layout. At this point, I'm not sure where or how the sentiments will be arranged on the card. This might be my new favorite die cut. Look how amazing it looks. It's so intricate yet super easy to line up. After trimming off the overhanging pieces from the panel, I decide that I'm going to cover the flat part of the panel with vellum so the sentiment die cuts are more visible. Since I have to trim the panel on an angle, the way I do this is line it up with the top of the panel and then shift it left and right to mark the ends of the angle where I need to cut across. I use my Tim Holtz design ruler to assist in this process. I played around with the die cuts until I was happy with their placement, which is right along the border of the transition. Then the next step is to apply a vellum adhesive so it remains invisible underneath the vellum. I wanted a bit more dimension for the die cut, so I die cut the words again, this time with watercolor cardstock, to triple layer each word. Again, I use liquid adhesive to do this. I also decided to add foam tape to keep the top half of the leaves popped up. The last steps are to adhere the sentiment die cuts to the card and adhere the panel to the card base. Now this card is done. Here's a closer look at the completed card with all of its stamping, die cuts, and dimension. I also wanted to quickly mention that there's a stamping guide for the beautiful bloom stamp set on the Stamp Market website, and I did use that to stamp my images. It's a great resource and very easy to use. I tested these stamps before making this card and discovered that it's easy for me to line up when I stamp the second layer first. That's only because I chose a lighter color for the main first layer. I've found that with most layering stamps there's no one right way and that you always have to figure out which way works best for you. I'm using fire brick to stamp the second layer. It's nice and dark, so I'll be able to see exactly where the points line up when it comes to stamping the next layer, and especially that main bloom. As shown in the stamping guide, there are noticeable details that you look for to line up each layer. I tried it both with the Misty and an acrylic block, and it was equally easy. In fact, I found it was much faster with an acrylic block. I stamped with Autumn Blaze next, and you'll notice that I went through and used the same color in both flowers before moving on to the next layer. It was easier to do it this way since I had the ink pad out. The third color is Maple Yellow, and the fourth color is Honey Drizzle. Finally, I stamped the petals with Pink Pearl. The smallest stamp for the second flower kept sticking to my hand, so I just used an acrylic block. When the cardstock sticks to the stamp and shifts, I have to double check that the stamp was lined up in the first place. I followed the same process in stamping the bud. This particular image also has 5 layers, but the first 3 layers are for the flower and the last 2 are for the leaves and stem. I'm going to skip through stamping most of the foliage because it's straightforward and super easy. It's also boring to watch since I'm using so many leaves. After die cutting all of these gorgeous pieces, I can start to arrange them directly on the card base. What I love most about this set is that the leaves and stems were created to perfectly line up with the edges of the blooms, which makes one layer stamping incredibly easy. If you choose not to buy the dies for this stamp set, you don't have to go through the trouble of masking. This is a very unique design and I haven't seen it anywhere else. You'll see exactly what I mean as I'm tucking those leaves in between the petals. I don't really have to tuck them behind anything at all. They sit nicely around the petals. As my arrangement grows larger, I have to use tweezers to move around the smaller pieces. I stamped For You right in the center of the card using moss, which is a dark green in the same color family as the leaves. Now I'm ready to start adhering all the pieces to the card base. I'm going to pop up the blooms with foam tape and adhere everything else with mini glue dots. Originally, I was going to leave the white space at the bottom of the card, but later decided to use up the die cuts I had to create a smaller cluster and balance out the arrangement at the top of the card. Here's a final look at both cards in their respective stamp sets. I did use the same colors on both cards, except for the greens which I added to the second card. I'm totally in love with these stamp sets and they're going to be my new go-to stamp sets for quick and easy cards. The Stamp Market is giving away one $25 gift certificate to a lucky winner chosen randomly from my video or Kaylin's video, so be sure to leave some love on both our videos. Comments will close at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on Monday, October 22nd, 2018, and the winner will be announced shortly after in the description below. Please head over to Kaylin's blog and YouTube channel using the link below to see her take on beautiful blooms and lots of leaves. Thanks so much for watching!